everyone. It's been a year since the pandemic started, and I was living in New York when it started, and it's been really tough as a cellist surviving the pandemic. So I've been reflecting on it, and I wanted to do something musically to kind of share this musical reflection with you. And I thought I would invite my friend Preston Stahly from the Tribeca New Music Festival to join me in creating something original to share with you all. So let's all welcome Preston, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how he came about creating this piece.
Hey Wendy, thanks for having me. This is terrific. Yes, we were neighbors in New York City for quite a while, and when the whole pandemic hit, I mean the whole country remembers that. I had friends who were hospital workers, and there was a lot of death. I mean, people were. It was a very dark time, and so everybody was hunkered down in their homes, and my wife and I, no exception. And so the only way we could really get any kind of relief, if anything like that, is to go out and just take a walk and try and get a breath of fresh air and social distance. And we would go across the street into the park, and guess what? So many other people were doing this, and we would run into other couples and families. And I was just struck by the humanity and the strength of how people were trying to cope with their situation. And I'm also a photographer, so I was compelled to start taking portraits of people, and we would socially distance talk to each other. And I was, again, so moved by that, and that really compelled me to write some music. And because you and I are friends, and I just felt the piece that was coming to me, the music that was coming to me, felt like cello music. And so I wrote this piece called Corona Blue for you, and you're so gracious to play it. Really, truly.
It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece. It was a pleasure learning it. And so we thought we would share this with you right now. And let's take a listen. And then afterwards, come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about the creation process and about our experience during the pandemic in New York City. Let's take a listen. Okay, so now we've listened to the piece, and I'm just wondering if you guys have any reactions or any feelings about what kind of emotions might have come to you by listening, and maybe some of your feelings about what you have gone through in this pandemic. And maybe you may have some questions for Preston about the piece itself. I mean, I personally really enjoyed working on it. I thought there was, it starts with one motive and it keeps growing. And then there's this big moment. Well, there are several big moments where it really gets very intense emotionally for me. Like I could really feel it and I could really connect to that moment of like intensity in the middle. How was the composing process?
Well, I'm an American composer, and my roots are in American music, and to a certain extent, I felt somehow the hand of Gershwin and Copland and people like that, and Bernstein.
Yes, I definitely heard some of that. Some of that, I told you a little bit of Copland at the end, right? Some of those harmonies.
We all have parents and grandparents in music, and those are my parents and grandparents, Charles Ives, all this wonderful American lineage. And so, there was kind of a blues thing in it that worked for me, but also it was a little bit like a Gershwin prelude, and it's A-B form. But, that's how the piece is organized. But the other, the thing that's amazing about music, especially for me, this kind of piece is the emotion of it. Where we have this shared experience. People say musical is an international language, and that's right. Absolutely true. And so I think people can pull a sense of tragedy and also a sense of strength out of the music. And that's what I tried to put across in it. And I hope that came across. I hope your listeners.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they haven't, because I definitely identify with all the things that you just mentioned. How was your experience besides being able to take walks and being able to do portraits and talk to people on the streets? What was your experience going through the New York City pandemic as a musician?
Well,
also.
As a musician, we don't have enough time to talk about all that, but I mean, I organize the Tribeca Music Festival. You can learn all about that at tribecanimusic.org. But we were able to continue programming through this by working with musicians according to New York State laws, to make sure everybody was isolated correctly and tested, and working with our friends at the Cell Theater in New York City. And we were able to continue doing a very effective programming, which I had not anticipated. So just from an artistic director standpoint, that was pretty exciting. And the musicians, let me tell you something, they were so hungry to perform.
Of course, yeah.
So I was hungry to write. And I think that's the thing that really struck me mostly emotionally. It was how much it meant to these performing artists to express. It was a very special experience I'll never forget.
Absolutely, and we've seen pictures of people performing on the streets earlier in the pandemic, of course with masks and socially distanced whenever possible. And for me personally, I have to thank YouTube, because my performing medium has become all here, just like how I performed for you today, Preston's piece. And what's really amazing about YouTube is that you can reach anyone in the world. And people that normally may not have access to my performances because we don't live in the same place, now someone can, because I am now on YouTube. So, I mean, I basically, as soon as the lockdown happened, the first thing I did was, okay, let's do some YouTube videos. And now it has become my very, very favorite medium for sharing my music and doing, arts advocacy, arts and education, all that stuff, and bringing a live composer that we can ask questions. So you guys comment right now if you have any questions for Preston. He's going to try to answer as many questions as he can, and I will as well. And if you like this kind of content of me bringing composers, bringing original work, which I believe is so important that we are able to do that, because I honestly cannot invite Beethoven on Zoom, right? but we have Preston Stahly, who is right here, right, that we can talk to. So that is fantastic, and this is why I love being able to share on YouTube. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us your experience and the music. It's beautiful. I hope that you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you like and share this video with your friends, and also share with us in the comments below, you know, some of your experiences during the pandemic, and how have you been able to kind of, I guess in a way, almost like self-therapy, right? Wouldn't you say, Preston, when you wrote the piece, it's almost like, you know, a way of expressing, kind of like finding a way to kind of absorb and to reflect and have like an artistic or musical tool, whether it's writing or photography. For me, is sharing music on YouTube. For Preston, is writing music, and I'm sure it has been different mediums for everybody. So do share with us. Thank you again, Preston, for coming on my channel, and be sure to check him out. And I'll put his links down below. Tribeca New Music Festival. I've performed there multiple times. It's a wonderful organization, and we will see you next time. That's it.
Thank you, Wendy.
Subscribe and like. Bye.
Bye-bye.